I just wanted to add a quick content note for this episode. So, this episode includes discussions of foster care, trauma, low mood, and suicidal feelings. If these topics are difficult for you, please take care whilst listening. If you're struggling, please consider speaking to someone you trust or seeking support. Samaritans are available 24/7 on 116 123 or at samaritans.org. Jordan, thank you ever so much for joining us on the Untypical Parent podcast today.
You are so welcome. I'm so thrilled to be here.
We're delighted to have you. Thank you. Um, just before we kind of get into the kind of the nitty gritty of what we're going to be talking about today, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation because I think this is going to be a conversation that people won't necessarily attribute to you. They won't know this about you. So I'm really looking forward to talking about it. And I think it's also a really, really important topic that I think is really good to talk about and explore. But before we do that, Jordan, tell us a bit about who you are and what do you do?
I am a special education teacher and I've been in special education since I was 18. I started as a supply teaching assistant whilst I was doing my degree because I knew I wanted to be a teacher. Thought I wanted to be a drama teacher. My degree was in acting. So I thought I wanted to do kind of secondary school drama. And I thought, well, SEND teacher, practice as a teaching assistant would be great practice because if I can do that, I can run a year 9 drama class. So that was what I was thinking. And then 1 week in a PMLD class, I thought, "Oh, hello. I quite like this actually." I hadn't had any experience with anything. Nobody in my family knowingly at that point was autistic or had any disabilities, but it just triggered something in me. And then from that point, I was in. So I did that for 2 years whilst I was doing my degree. Went to the same school for my teacher training and NQT year, and then worked there for 10 years as a teacher
Okay.
in the special needs school. So that kind of it just took me. It completely changed my path doing that. And ever since it's been my absolute passion. So yeah, that was when I was 18. So that was 16 years ago. And I've worked with children from 2 to 19, young adults to 19, doing all sorts of different subjects and things with them. And then a couple of years ago, I started sharing my lesson plans because my latest school was attached to a mainstream school, and it became really apparent to me that I could fill my special education class about 3 times over with the kids that were in mainstream. And I never saw that before because before I was just in special ed, so I just assumed that that's where all the kids were.
Yeah,
And in my recent school, it was very apparent that that isn't the case. And actually, there is some incredibly high needs children in mainstream that have no place in a classroom like mine, and they need it. And I was also aware that there's a big lock on my door, and nobody gets to see the amazing work that we do. And I wanted to celebrate it. It's not an institution, it's not what people think it is. And I wanted to celebrate the colour, songs, joy that we have in my classroom. So I kind of through my social media, I kind of shared that really. I wanted to really celebrate what special education is for those parents that are wanting to keep their children in mainstream because they're scared of what special education means.
yeah,
And I wanted to share with the mainstream teachers, because every teacher is a special education teacher now, what the
absolutely.
hell to do with these kids in a
Yeah,
positive way, because I was seeing
yeah.
some really poor practice. So it was that really, and then it's gone mad. Absolutely crazy. It's the business I never meant to start,
Yeah.
but it's really exciting. Yeah.
And I
So
think
that's kind of what I do
that really
really.
comes across for me when I've seen your posts and things is the joy that you obviously exude when you do it. And I think when we exude it, it comes back.
True.
That they're very positive. You do a lot around AAC and you do a lot around sensory stuff.
Mhm.
Um, so I can well imagine that
I
teachers
I
all
do
over.
genuinely just love it, and I feel so lucky to be a teacher who can say that.
Yeah.
I love it. I choose in
It
my
comes
spare time, right?
across.
I choose in my spare time to do spare time in quotes,
Yeah.
um, to do stuff for my kids. Like, I absolutely love it, and my TAs will tell you so often I'm, like, doing a parachute song or game or whatever, and I just say, "Can you believe we get paid to do this? Can you believe this is our job?" Like, I genuinely love it.
So is that your full-time job? You're teaching full-time and then you're doing your
Well, I
stuff on the
was. So when I
side?
first started, I was. I was running
Okay.
2 classrooms and doing that, which is absolutely mad. Do not
Jordan.
recommend. Absolutely crazy. But now it's, 2 days teaching and
And then the
then yeah.
rest is around
Yeah.
your business now, the sensory class?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yes. What we were going to talk about today is something that people might not think or know about you, is that actually you have been and do foster children.
Yeah. So, I did it for around 2 years, yeah, before I moved to Cornwall. Yeah, and it's something that I've got a tiny little highlight on my Instagram. It's way at the back because I obviously don't share into it anymore about foster care. Yeah, and it's a big part of my journey into
Yeah.
what I'm sharing now, my
Well,
passion for it.
and we met, didn't we? Because I kind of came onto your podcast and we were talking about, come onto mine and what we're going to talk about. And we were thinking about the sensory stuff and all that. And you just little dropped it in, something about, and I thought, oh, what was that about? Because I've never had a parent on that is a foster parent. They've all been birth parents. So I thought, for the Untypical Parent podcast, we need
What's
to have
more untypical
yeah, we
than
need to
that?
have this conversation. So I was really, excited to hear that that's what you've done in the past.
Yeah.
So I suppose I link into that. I always ask everyone that comes on, are you the perfect parent? So, Jordan, are you the perfect parent?
My God, absolutely not. And I think I can share in the way I do, and what makes me different from other teachers and other parents that share is that I have experience that straddles both worlds.
Yeah,
I am so privileged to have had experience of the weight of being an SEND parent, but the luxury of dipping in and out of it.
yeah, yeah,
And I would never say that I have fully experienced it because what the biggest part of being an SEND parent is the relentlessness and the staring down a barrel of when am I getting my break? That massive part of being an SEND parent I didn't have. The
yeah,
fear of what happens when you're gone, all of those big fears I didn't have. So I would hate to even remotely say that I understand. However, the day-to-day weight of it, the pressure of being everybody wearing all the hats and advocating, absolutely.
yeah.
I've lived it.
And the,
Yeah.
the the young people and the kids that you've had come and be fostered by you, did they all have additional needs, SEND
Most,
needs?
just because of my area of expertise, like they'd be
Yeah,
silly to not. We
yeah.
did have a teenage girl for 8 days, that was neurotypical, but of course every child in foster care has trauma.
I was going to
So
say,
you're
yeah,
kind of yeah, so you're kind of supporting them in a similar way, honestly. Everybody's unique, but everybody comes with their own stuff, whether it's neurotypical or experience based. They all have their own stuff. So, but yeah, the other 3 had diagnosed disabilities, which is why they were with me. 2 of them were respite care. So they were very safe and very happy and healthy in their families. But I provided respite for their parents. So that's a fantastic thing that we can talk about. It's a fantastic system that is available for so many parents, and they don't know about it. So that's one thing. I had a foster child for 11 months full time who was out of education. So that's kind of how I understand that side of things, really trying to find a school for
okay,
him and all of
yeah,
those kind of things. Full time, 100% parent being everybody, no social worker for 3 months, that kind of fight
okay,
kind of
yeah.
situation. I've been there, felt that. And then, yeah, this teenager for 8 days, who kept running away and phoned the police most days. So I feel like I've had an experience, a little inkling of what it feels like to be a parent in the most complicated of ways. I kind of jumped right in the deep end, I
I was
suppose,
going to
without
say
that
that to
cute
you.
little baby phase. And
Yeah,
yeah.
because it's the kind of there isn't the kind of build up that you might get if you'd had kids from birth and you were their birth parent, that you kind of get that build up. But also, talking about the fact that they might have SEND needs, But then, like also, like you said, that attachment and trauma element for those children as well can be huge, and behaviors can be very big, and things feel very unsafe for those kids, and that adds another layer of complexity to
Yeah,
SEND need.
the fact that we weren't parents first, the fact that my husband even went for the idea is incredible, because it was totally my idea. But yeah, the fact that we hadn't even been parents before, so it changed our entire home, it changed our
Yeah.
entire world. It was mad to do really in the way that we did it. But if I was going to do it, it was always going to be SEND. That is
What
just my
made you
heart.
do it? What
Good
made you go down
question.
the foster route?
Good question. In my special needs school, I saw that some of the children were fostered or at least had respite care.
Yeah.
And I didn't think they were doing a good enough job.
Okay.
And rather than just judging them and moving on, I wanted to step into that role and think, well, if I'm going to judge them that they're not doing a good enough job, then I can't leave it there. I then I saw a need and
Wow.
tried to feel that need, I suppose, which is such a drop in the ocean, but
Mm.
that's just me, and that's why I started this account, honestly. I saw a need, I looked around and thought, "Is anyone else gonna do this? No, okay, I guess it's me
I'll do
then."
it. Yeah.
Yeah, a bit little red hen, I am a bit like that. Fine, I'll do it myself,
Yeah.
I am a bit like that anyway. So I think I saw a need and yeah, and was intrigued as to could I do
Yeah.
it how I feel like it could be
Yeah.
done? What is the impact of that?
Is the
So I think
process,
that was the initial
I was
thought.
gonna,
That was the initial.
I was gonna say, is the process long to be able to get to do the fostering? Does it take a long
Yeah,
time?
well, it's typically around 3 or 4 months.
Okay, not too long.
So yeah, so that's if your house is ready and your life is ready, which we were doing an extension at the time, so ours actually took a bit longer. But yeah, typically if you would, contact your, social service team and say you're interested, they'll be oh my god, they'll come around the next day.
I can well
They're so
imagine.
desperate. They are so desperate for respite carers and emergency carers and full-time foster carers. Actually, they would come down the next day, and then an external social worker will get all your information, get all your reports ready, and that's the bit that takes quite a few months. It's quite in depth. They want to know everything about not just you, but your extended family, your support network. They go to ask your friends and family and children. It's really important that everybody is on board with this and that you have a support network around you because they understand that it's a lot you're taking on. So yeah, that's about 3 or 4 months, and then you go to panel, and the panel is made up of social workers, ex-foster children, or children that are fostered, maybe doctors, nurses, teachers, and they decide whether you've passed or not. Typically, you don't go to panel, and if you don't pass, the social worker that's doing your report wouldn't get you to
Okay.
do panel if they weren't confident that you would get it. But so that it's not as scary as it looks. But they ask you a few questions about what would you do if, all those kind of things. And then they tell you you've passed straight away. And then you start getting calls the next day for children. And that's a lot. We were getting 8 referrals a day, and they're photoless, nameless sheets of paper with an initials and with the most horrendous stuff on them. And you just want all of them. So I said yes to everybody, and they don't all go to you. Just because you say yes doesn't mean they go into your home. It just means that you're
Okay.
in the pool of, who lives closest to their local school, who lives closest to their family, so they can do contact and all of those kind of things. So we were saying yes every day to all of these horrendous cases, and I just wanted all of them. And if that alone takes its toll on you, reading these nameless sheets of
I was
paper.
going to say then, how does that kind of, what does
Yeah.
that do for you? Because actually, that's a kind of, we talk about kind of secondary trauma that, you can, by reading somebody else's trauma, can be really triggering for some people.
Yeah, the first 10, you imagine them in your home and you imagine what it would look like to have a child that smears on the wall. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Can we say yes to him? Who's going to say yes if we don't? That they're all the things that, maybe they're only smearing because they're in the wrong place. And they're the kind of questions that we're talking about, you
Yeah, yeah.
know? Can we have a physically disabled child? That means we'd need a hoist in our room, you know. Are we gonna do that? You know, that probably means we're adoption and, you know, you're talking about a sheet of paper, but really you're talking about, you know, it's a big it's a big thing, really big thing.
Huge.
So yeah, they're the kind of conversations you're having, and we were saying yes to a lot of children, and and when you say yes, you're agreeing to all of it, whatever isn't on the paper, whatever they don't know about as well, which is a lot. And then you wait on the phone for a phone call, whether it's you never hear if it's a no, but you hear if it's a yes. And so every time you get a phone call, you yeah, is
Yeah.
it?
And I
And then
suppose
they
that,
turn up within, 12 hours after they've said yes. So
and how do you look after yourself in that? Because like you just talked about, then I could see that, that there's almost that, your that
yeah,
anxiety for you as a foster parent waiting is living with that anxiety. Am I getting someone? And not maybe an anxiety that it's a bad thing, but it's the unknown and what
yeah.
that could
It's
bring and how we
adrenaline and
manage.
yeah, it is anxiety. It's the unknown. It's trying to be as prepared as you can be. I think all the similar feelings of when you're pregnant and you're waiting for your baby, like you've done all
Yeah.
the reading, you've done all the training, you've got everything in place. You busy yourself by getting the room ready and imagining what it will be like, which is totally a gaga of reality of what it's actually going to be like. But you're kind of in this kind of dream state. I think it's honestly, I can't compare, but I think it's probably really similar. That
Mm,
getting extra clothes ready and just being in their room and just sitting in it, imagining what it would be like. I think I felt all those things. It's
yeah.
just my child that was going to come was going to be a 10-year-old ball of chaos, but
Yeah.
I think all those feelings are really same, that anxious excitement, nervousness, "Can I really do this? What the hell are we doing?" All of those feelings, I think are probably really similar to an expectant parent.
And do you think there's something in there as well about that? We talk about being the perfect parent, but is being able to do this perfectly for this child, the responsibility that comes with that. I can just imagine, or only imagine, that it must be huge that I want to get this right for this kid. They've had such
Yeah,
a time to be
totally,
here.
and I would hate to say it's more than a typical parent, but I think it is because it's someone
Yeah.
else's child,
Yeah.
and they've already been through so much. They've already been through too much, more than you would ever even
Mm.
know, more than the social workers know, more
Yeah.
than they even realise probably.
Yeah.
The boy that we had for 11 months, a lot came out through his play, just in random conversation. A lot came out through when we were driving the car. And we had him for a year and we still don't really know what
Yeah.
went on. But there was conversations like, oh, my favourite dinner was Kristen ice cream. And we'd get that from the shop. And it came out that when he was about 5, he was actually the carer for his nan, even though his nan should have been the carer for him.
Wow.
Yeah, his dad lived them for a while, who was a sex offender. Um, yeah, lot came out.
Yeah.
We were reading Harry Potter at the time. That was quite interesting. He related a lot to Harry Potter, and things would come out of calling himself a mudblood, and he really related to that, like
Yeah.
that feeling. So that is that he's came up through play. We were playing with dolls. So I did a lot through play with him because we were at home full time together, right? So we did a lot through play, and it came out that the mum would leave to go on holiday and leave the children with a homeless person through his play, and we didn't know that before. The social care didn't know that before. So it's just it all, you know, you read this piece of paper, and they even had his diagnosis wrong on the piece of paper. We had no idea what child we were getting, and you learn them through weeks and months of just being together, and you feel the enormity of what you're doing, and the responsibility is massive to not let them down again.
Yeah.
And that was what carried me through that year and actually made it really bad for my health, was the weight of being the only person in the world that seems to want to do right by this child,
And that
and
was
that's enormous.
that's huge. And I think just as you were talking then, it gave me goosebumps as you were talking then. And I was thinking how did did you look after you in that?
I don't think I did a very good job. Talking about the unperfect parent, I didn't look after myself enough. I was going through therapy at the same time because I'd lost my dad before we'd started fostering, which is also another pull to fostering. I wanted to, yeah, I felt really privileged to have such wonderful parents, and I kind of, without knowing it at the time, I think I felt like everybody deserved a parent like that.
Mhm.
So I think that was a bit of a pull as well. So yeah, I was going through therapy for that, and actually it didn't end up as bereavement therapy at all. It ended up as very much let's get through the day, Jordan therapy. And I drew a picture for her, and I think lots of SEND parents can relate to this. I drew a picture of me. It was very much a doodle. Don't imagine, but imagine it was an incredible picture of me with my hands like in kind of like a prayer stance above my head,
Yeah.
and he, the foster child, was standing on my palms, and I was underwater. And
Wow.
everybody was telling me what a great job I was doing, because I was doing such a great job for him. I was everything he needed to be. I was the most incredible advocate. I was the incredible teacher. I was going above and beyond. We were doing forest school. We were going on walks. We were doing cafes. We were doing cinema, swimming. I was everything and more that he needed me to be. But I was absolutely drowning.
Yeah.
I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
And all I was getting wasn't support. It wasn't getting me out of the water. It was just telling me what an incredible job I was doing, and I was drowning. And I think that experience and that feeling sets me apart from other teachers that share about SEND on social media,
Yeah.
because I've been that parent. I really have. Like, yeah, we didn't have a social worker for 3 months. We weren't in school at that time. I was the only professional in this child's life, and that made me incredibly vulnerable, because
Yeah.
he could have said, he was speaking, he could have said that we were doing anything, and there was no professional to check on us. I felt so isolated at that time. And before we were fostering, everybody was super keen to get involved and, "Yeah, we'll help, we'll help. Oh, isn't this fun?" It wasn't the reality. When they saw then that this boy wasn't cute and and quiet and sweet and all those things they imagined it would be, when he was a big bowling the size of a 15-year-old 10-year-old with that self-harmed and said he was going to die and was really big and bulky and scary to them. I mean,
Yeah.
I think he was adorable. I think, that's the worst of him. That's what they saw, this raging bull of anger and trauma. Um, they didn't want to know.
Do
All of those kind of,
were people worried for you,
yeah,
Jordan? Did you get people say we're
yeah,
worried for you? Yeah.
yeah. I lost an incredible amount of weight, and looking back at photos, I just look gaunt and ill.
Yeah.
But it isn't helpful when you're in that moment, them saying, "Oh, like, you look unwell." I'm like, "Yes, but you're not helping." Of course I do. Nobody is helping me. I'm trying so hard to make it right for this child, and nobody is helping me. No schools, we tried a school. He lasted 3 weeks and got expelled. That was the school that I'd been in for 10 years. I loved that
Yeah.
school so much. I thought if any school is gonna take him,
Yeah.
it's gonna be that school that I love and that I poured so much passion into for those 10 years. He lasted 3 weeks. They couldn't even make it work for that. They didn't even try. Social worker, nothing for 3 months, as they were, and we had so many social workers. I mean, God, that's being in social care, isn't it? I mean, I know
Yeah.
lots of SEND parents could do that.
Yeah.
Caseworker, I didn't even know who the caseworker was, and I know you can relate to that. Um, yeah, just there was nobody consistent apart from our own social worker. So as a foster parent, you have your own social worker as well as the child social worker. And she was consistent and she was incredibly strong. And the agency as well that we weren't with county council, we were with an independent agency. I'm really grateful for that. Nothing against county. I've had actually really good experience with the county council foster team since then as well, actually. So maybe that's unfair, but we were very incredibly supported by them, apart from the promise for respite, and then no respite carers actually wanting him. So yeah, it was a lot, 24/7, no respite, very, very little support network, never been a parent before, no social worker, no school, 100% off you go.
And
Yeah,
that sounds so scary. And I think
yeah,
some of the work I've done in the background is I've worked with, looked after children and done the trauma and attachment side of OT and worked with those kids and those families. And, often I was coming across families and I often felt it was just one of those really awful situations, I think, where they felt that if they just loved them enough, everything would be okay. But actually, in the reality, the support network wasn't there. And the love helps,
mhm,
but actually, the support network that needs to go round those families and those parents,
yeah,
that it needs to be,
yeah,
absolutely rock solid for
totally,
those
because
that
the
support.
parent needs to just wear the parent hat.
Yeah,
If the parent could just wear the parent hat, they would be able to do that,
yeah,
you know? But what we're asking of parents, because there's so many failing systems, is they also need to wear the social work hat, and they also need to wear the teacher hat, and they also need to wear, all of these different hats. And then that's when they feel like they're a failure. That's when they feel like they're not coping. No wonder. We are asking them
yeah,
to do the absolute impossible.
yeah,
And it was a luxury of it was a job for me. I hadn't been born into it. I had chosen to do it. I am aware of that. That is what's different. I was fully trained, not prepared, but I was fully trained. I had chosen to do it. I could leave it at any time. I didn't feel like I could, but I could. And that is the difference between what I was feeling and what an SEND parent feels,
yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Um, because I didn't want to leave it, but I could. And in the end, that is what happened. We were 11 months in, and I just noticed I was really distant. I wasn't doing any of the things that I was doing before. And actually, everybody was still telling me what a great job I was doing. And the social worker was still telling me, but you're doing way more than any other social worker, any other foster carer. But it wasn't good enough for me. I wasn't doing what I felt he needed, and that wasn't good enough. I was burnt out, for
Yeah,
want of a better word. I was
yeah.
absolutely, I mean, to be honest, I didn't know it was gonna get here, but I was suicidal at that point,
Wow.
because I felt like, and I feel like when people are suicidal, it's because they feel trapped,
Yeah,
and it's their only way out. So I felt trapped by the promise to him. I felt trapped by, looking like a failure. I felt trapped, like I told everybody that I was gonna do this thing, and then I couldn't do it, and I was letting him down. And I didn't wanna do that, so I felt like the only way out was that, which seems so crazy now, because of course that wasn't gonna help anybody, but at the time, I genuinely saw that as the only way that I didn't have to deal with all of that,
yeah,
and I could still get out and have a rest, which is crazy, but that's the point I got to, and as soon as I started having those feelings, I just knew it was done. So that was I have done it since then. I've fostered 3 children since then. But that particular child, I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't be everybody anymore.
yeah,
11 months is a very long time being everybody. And it was when that school placement broke down. So we'd spent 10 months fighting for a school placement, and then he had the 3 weeks, and then because he kept saying that he wanted to die, um, they felt like he was too much of a risk, and they couldn't take him, and that was my last resort. Those 3 weeks, I could finally breathe, and I felt like it was done, and we could actually do this, and I could have him till he was 25, and all of those things that I really wanted, and then when that broke down, I couldn't do it
yeah.
anymore.
And how,
Yeah.
co-
And we had him for another month after I decided that, because I'd promised him that we'd take him to Disneyland.
oh,
And, he'd never been on holiday before, he'd never been out of the country before, and he'd never had a passport before, so we'd fought for months and months and months. The hoops you have to jump through for haircuts, the hoops you have to jump through for getting, yeah, anything you want to do as a
haircuts.
foster carer. Sometimes, yeah, you have to ask permission for everything, but passport was a nightmare. But we'd finally got this passport, and everything had fallen apart, but I just said, "I have promised him that we are taking him to Disneyland. We are taking him to Disneyland. So already we'd got the date of when he wasn't going to be with us, but we still, I had to really fight to prove that I was well enough to take him. Um, and they let us take him, and we took him to Disneyland. Because that was my last promise to him. I couldn't let him down on that. That was my last, like, I think it was a bit of a promise of myself as well, of like,
Yeah.
you've done
And you gave him a different experience in that time,
this.
whatever had gone before that. And
And he had no idea that I was struggling as much as I was.
yeah,
Like, think about that, back to that drowning picture. He had no idea. He was thriving. He was doing really well. But that was almost made it worse, that he was doing really well, but I couldn't keep going for that. And it was gonna be that he would have started sinking, and I couldn't let that happen under my watch.
yeah. And
Yeah.
that's a really, I can hear in the way that you're talking what a difficult decision that was to make, but probably one of the best decisions for him and you.
The thing is, I'll never know.
Yeah,
And that's also the hard thing about foster care, is you never know.
yeah.
Um, yeah, you put everything into them, and you
Do you
never
need a
know.
minute?
No, it's okay.
Sure.
I think it's important that people see the reality.
Mm.
It isn't just a job.
And
No
just to
foster
reassure people
no
as
foster
well.
care goes into it for the money.
Yeah, but you've got support now, haven't you? You've got support
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. I mean,
you've had help going
this
through
was 10
that.
years ago.
Yeah, yeah. So, but
Um,
you can still see how much that has an impact on you. And
yeah, because he's 20 now.
wow,
His birthday's the 21st of February every year. I think
yeah,
about him.
yeah.
Mm.
Do you ever get any feedback once they move on from you? Do you
I
ever know any
knew
more?
where he went next, and I knew where he went next after that. The trail goes cold after there. 'Cause I mean, who knows how many homes he's been in. I know he's gonna be in care till he's 25 because he has special needs.
Yeah,
So he's somewhere.
yeah. And that must be a
Um,
hard bit sitting with that as a foster carer, that you give all
yeah,
this.
because I stopped it because I knew I wasn't doing enough, but I'm also aware of the reality that my not enough is more than enough for other people.
Yeah,
So it's also accepting the reality that it might not be better.
yeah,
It might be a lot worse.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you go back, Jordan, to those kind of thinking of your foster time, your time when you fostered kids, what are the positives that have come out of it? Because and I know for you, you do want to talk about how hard it was, and so people do know and the impact that it had on you. But you also said to me before we started that there was a lot of positives from being a foster parent.
Yeah,
What kind
there
of
is, and I'm
positive
a huge
things?
advocate of foster care, and I don't want people to listen to this and think, "Oh god, I'm never doing that,"
Yeah.
because actually I think the world would be a better place if everybody did it,
Yeah.
and I think, everybody, I mean, god, I can't imagine you not having a heart for, children in care, especially as a parent, you can't imagine it, and also I have a lot of love for his, I said one of the first thing I'm gonna start with is might be, controversial, is it really surprised me the love I had for his mum.
Okay.
She was at all the meetings, and his nan actually. Um, she was at all of our meetings. We met up with her at least once a year, but more than that often. I've met her about 4 or 5 times, and I felt she was just as let down by the system as he was actually, and I was. And I had real love for her.
Yeah.
Um, she was just in a cycle of her own trauma, and that really surprised me. But I really was just as much an advocate for her in those meetings as I was for him, maybe even more.
Okay.
And that was a really beautiful insight, actually. I feel like I'm a better human for that experience, actually.
Yeah.
Um, and it was really lovely to see she did love him. She she was trying her best, actually. And her best was not deemed good enough, and she kept trying more and more, and the bar kept raising, which I think was really unfair. I think it was right that the kids weren't with her. I think they were safer not. But yeah, my heart went out to her actually. So I think the first one would be the positives out of it was it's really changed my outlook as a person, and it's made me a lot
Yeah.
more accepting and open to different experiences. And actually, I think if I'd have walked in her shoes, I'd have been making similar decisions to her too. And I'm no better. And I just don't think we can judge anybody if we haven't experienced what they've experienced. So that's the first thing I would say, is it just makes you a better human.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, we had a lot of laughs. It's a luxury to be an SEND parent and it be your full-time job. I
Mm.
wasn't having to juggle work as well, is a luxury. I think
Mm.
lots of SEND parents would jump at the chance of that being their full-time job with a take away the weight of being everybody and not having that respite and
Yeah.
everything. It was such a luxury to just be us two and to play and to know that I didn't have to juggle that with anything else apart from, organising the house, I suppose. I could just be all for him and everything he needed to be, and that was really great. It's
Yeah.
so great that the foster care system can allow that. I mean, but it was a luxury for that to be able to be my job.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, we had lots of laughs together. I've got lots of lovely videos actually somewhere. I think they're still on my social media, not of his face, but on one of the videos he was wearing a mask, so I was able to share it.
Okay.
He was a Black Panther, and yeah, we had some really lovely times. And then also, what's come out of it is a beautiful, unique insight. I mean, what person could say they have been able, or without bereavement, to say they've been an SEND parent, but then aren't living that life now? So I've got the experience of what it is to have that and that understanding, but then without with the time now to be an advocate.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's such a unique and special position to be in, and that isn't lost on me, that I get the benefit of both without experiencing bereavement. Because usually a parent would only experience that if they have lost a child, and that's very
Mm.
different. They're still an incredible advocate, but it's different. Um, Not that I didn't go through cycles of grief for
Yeah,
it, but it's
I bet.
very different. So yeah, I feel like an incredibly privileged position to straddle both worlds, and I think that's what sets me apart, actually. And I think without even knowing my story, people can see that through what I'm saying and how I'm sharing.
Mm.
Um, that I get it in more ways than people really realise, I think.
And I think they might misjudge that actually because
Mm,
they might not know this bit about you in the background, that this is what you've done, and actually
yeah.
going to ask you how, or kind of what you took from that into your teaching, how that impacted your teaching.
It certainly changed how I spoke to, judged, and spoke about parents.
Yeah.
Because before, it's so easy to say, "Well, why don't they just use the communication cards at home? It would be so much better." Or, "Why don't they never write in the communication book?" Or, I don't know, whatever it is. They're always so nagging, whatever it is. I don't think I actually said that, but, it's really easy to fall into those traps of, "Why don't they
Yeah.
just do that? Why don't they
Absolutely.
just?" Is a sentence starter, isn't it? But I was naive. I was new to, I'd never been a parent before, even let alone, SEND parent. So it's really easy to judge. But I haven't done that since.
Yeah. So he, I think,
I'd go and be above and beyond to make sure communication is how the parent can communicate whatever it is, and to get to know their family, to be the support work they need. I put a lot of pressure on myself to be the support work they need, because I understand how isolating it is. I understand what it feels like for the only person for you to speak to in the day is to be a supermarket cashier, and they're rude to you. I've been there. I
mm,
know that if that's your only conversation you can have that day and you are rude to me, and it's in Tesco or whatever, like, I've been there. So I get that those phone calls when a parent is calling you, you could be the only conversation they have had that
mm,
day. Definitely could be the only person as a teacher that gets their child and knows their child. Not their family might not. So I think I felt like the importance of the teacher-parent relationship, and how a teacher can fill some of the gaps and take some of the weight off, I think.
yeah. Yeah.
because that's what I needed. I needed a school to say, "We accept your child for whatever they are, and we will make it work. We will not give up on them."
Yeah.
And, I can very proudly say that in the 10 years since then, I have never given up on a child, however hard it's got. I've just managed it, because if they're gonna be poorly or asleep or hurting at school, then they're gonna be doing that at home too. It doesn't stop the behavior just because you send them home. They're
Yeah.
still gonna be poorly, they're still gonna be tired, they're still gonna be whatever, it's just the parent has to deal with it. I say to my team, "They can sleep here, they can be poorly here, they can be sad and hurting here," because what it does is it gives the parents 6 hours of catching up with themselves. Because 'cause let's face it, they're not having a jolly, like, they're catching up with
No.
themselves, giving themselves a breather so that they can cope with that through the night.
Yeah.
Because otherwise what you're doing is it's not gonna help the child if you're sending them home.
Yeah.
So I think that shifted massively, that reality of even if we are just respite for this parent, that is enough. Even if we haven't taught this child anything, just keeping them safe and giving that parent that choice of
Yeah.
let's go, or filling out that letter, or emailing that thing, whatever it is, because it's a full-time job being an SEND parent, um, then that is still we've still done a good job
And it's
that day.
about, isn't it? I think I talk about creating a bigger backup team, and I think
Yeah.
the bit that I felt when we were in complete crisis as a family was that nobody checked in on me. Nobody asked me a bit, like you were saying, you kind of felt really alone and you were holding it all. And that visual picture you describe is really hits home actually for me when you talk about that. And you're kind of, like you say, under the water, holding on to this kind of, and holding my breath would be a big description about what I talk about with it, is that you're kind of holding your breath, trying to get to the next step where I can, like you just did then, exhale. And when your kids aren't in school, they're not able to go to school, or schools aren't able to meet their needs, that's ginormous. And I talk about, with the work that I do, is about building that bigger backup team, and I'm going into schools and helping schools, and even businesses now. I'm starting to go into businesses and support, because parents out there are trying to work as well as do this. And like you say,
Lots of parents. Lots of parents.
huge, yeah, huge. And when your kids are that much in crisis, your job's then at risk.
Your
And
relationships, like so many, single
huge,
parents,
yeah,
yeah, because God, God, you haven't even got enough time for yourself.
yeah,
How can you pour into a relationship? You could have, you know, the best promising relationship in the world. Yeah, I
yeah. When you
I
have
get
that,
it.
when there's that much of pressure and that
Yeah,
much crisis,
yeah.
even the tiniest cracks become, whacking great
Yeah, well,
caverns that you cabins.
you're distant. You haven't got any energy for anything
Yeah,
else.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's gonna impact everything.
yeah,
Your friendships as well, I wasn't seeing friends because I didn't want their judgment or shame to be present around him. He deserved better than that.
okay,
So I chose not to see them
yeah,
because I didn't know that they would, but I didn't even wanna give it the chance that they could remotely give him a look or anything. I wanted to protect him from that. So
yeah,
I didn't that made me then choose not to see those friends, which then broke down those friendships, and yeah, it happens,
mm,
doesn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Jordan, if there was a parent out there today, and whether it could be that they're foster parents, because I do want to get that, I don't want to miss this group of parents that are out there. Foster parents, it could be adoptive parents, but also maybe a parent that's having a tricky time, and kids are out of school, or big behaviors at home that are causing a lot of stress. What would be your one bit of advice?
Yeah,
It sounds
I think
ridiculous when I say that,
no,
because
I think it's a really great question, and I think I I was messaging somebody on TikTok yesterday actually around the fear of social care.
okay,
There's this really
yes.
awful idea that social care are evil and the
They're going to take your
devil,
kids
and they're
away.
gonna take your kids away, and I think so many parents are so terrified of the term social care whenever it's mentioned because they are terrified of, 1, bringing them into their home when they know it's not perfect,
Mm,
um, bringing them into their world and seeing the reality is terrifying to them because their one fear is that their child will be taken away. And I cannot say it enough that that is not what social care is. It is such a last resort. It is so difficult to have a child taken
Yeah.
away. You know, as a teacher, I've worked with lots of children on the child protection register, and I cannot tell you the enormity of the situations that some of these children in, and they were still at
Yeah.
home
Yeah.
with both parents being disabled and having complex needs, all three children having a high level of disability, and still the social care system is built to keep them together as much as they can.
Yeah.
One, even if it's not for care, even if it's just for finances, the cost of children being in foster care means that the social care system, even if there is no heart in the system, even if it is just financial, which it might be, they wouldn't take your children away because the cost of that is enormous.
Yeah.
So I just want parents to know, don't be scared to phone social services. Don't be scared to share your reality. Be honest with them because that's the only way you're going to get any help. And foster care is amazing. Re- Respite foster care is, I never knew how incredible it is. It is our lifeline. It is the only reason we kept going for those 11 months, and I've been a respite foster carer since then, and it is wonderful. You run it like your own business if you want to, so you can vet the people, you choose the people if you want to. Um, they kind of get paid as a personal assistant in a way. That's another offer that social care do. You know, it can be respite overnights where your children get to stay overnight, and it's consistent. It's the same person every time, and it might be one day a week. It might be a couple of times a month. You know, whatever works for you and your family. You basically get awarded however many hours, and you can use them however you want to. It can just be in school holidays if you want to, and they get a little holiday and they love it because the respite carer is rested. So they get to take them to all these fun places and be like fun auntie, whoever. And they have a great time and they're everything they need them to be, like a little holiday. And what it means for you and your family is you can pour into the siblings and you can pour
Yeah.
into, um, yeah,
They can
yourself.
say themselves.
And
Yeah.
it just keeps you going. It just keeps you going. It keeps you being the best parent that you want to be. So respite care is amazing. Everybody wins with respite care. Totally. I'm such an advocate. And anyone can be a respite carer as long as you've got a spare bedroom in your house. Anyone could be a respite carer, whether you are on benefits, whether you work, whether you don't, whether you're a single parent. Yeah, whether you've got pets, whether you've got your own children, no children, anybody can be a respite carer. All you need is a spare bedroom. And around Christmas time, maybe not even that, because they're so desperate for something for these children. And then emergency care as well is something where we've been an emergency carer for a wonderful family. She's a single parent of an autistic child who we're still in contact with now, 14 years later. And she had to go into hospital,
Oh, okay.
and she had sepsis, so she had to be in hospital for 3 months, and who's gonna have her little boy? So we were his emergency foster carers. He wasn't in any danger at home. She was a
Yeah.
wonderful parent, but she had no, well, she did have support network, but her dad and sister couldn't take that on right now. That wouldn't have been the safest place for him. So we were his respite care, and every week or a few times a week, I'd collect him from school and take him to the hospital so she could see him and they could see each other. And then when she was home but still recovering, we still had him, but we'd go there and they'd spend time together, and we were kind of that support. And I think that's a real fear for parents of what happens if something happens to me.
Yeah.
Whereas if
Mm.
you've already got those relationships built up through respite care, the natural person to take on your child through those uh-oh moments is that respite carer, and they will do that for you. It,
Mm.
it extends your support network in such a beautiful and wonderful way, and that's something that social care can provide that nobody talks about. And every parent feels like a failure if they can't do it all themselves, but actually the reality is that you can be the parent that you feel like you want to be because of this,
Yeah.
because you're allowing other people in. um yeah, and yeah, just everybody wins. So the one bit of advice would be, when people mention Maru and when people mention social care and social workers, don't hold that in fear and don't avoid it. Just have the conversation. Maybe it's not right for you right now. Maybe
Yeah.
it's not right for your child right now. But I'd have that conversation for
Yeah.
sure, and
Yeah.
I'd be really honest and open with them because I promise you they've seen it all. No
Yeah.
social worker will walk into a room, into
Yeah.
your house. If you're listening to this podcast, I can already tell you they will walk into your house and be absolutely not shocked because you're here. You clearly are here because you want to do your best for your child. So,
Yeah.
yeah, they've seen it all. Nothing will shock them. My God, yeah, nothing will shock them.
That's a
Um,
really good thing to know about because I suppose I've had similar kind of feelings. We had when my son was out of school, we had social care come in, and I do remember that conversation when they're saying to me, "We're going to refer to social care," and I was like, "What?" And had that very old kind of fashioned no, thought that they're going to take my son away,
it's a parent's worst
even
fear, isn't it?
it
Yeah.
is. And even though I had worked with families and had worked in CAMS and all sorts of, exactly as you say, you're ringing up social service going, I need some help.
Yeah,
And
well,
then,
it's harder to get the help.
yeah,
Like that this is the thing. This is the thing. It's harder to get the help. So if you and also if you say no too many times, they stop offering it
yeah,
and it goes on the register system. So if you say no when they're 7, 8, 9, but then you really need it at 16, 17, 18, it's still on your record that you said
yeah,
no to it. So
yeah,
I want parents to be aware of that as well. It's not I don't want to fearmonger you, but it is something that you only get offered so many times. So even if you're just dabbling into it through respite care, the odd, it could be 4 times a year. Even if
yeah,
you're just taking advantage of that, it means you're in the system. So if things automatically get worse, if you get ill or hurting behaviors, get worse, or a sibling, I don't know, so much can happen.
yeah,
You're already in the system, so then they have a responsibility to
yeah,
care for you and your child.
yeah.
Whereas if you're out of the system, a bit like you're out of school,
Mm,
you're then fully out of the system, and if things change, it's really hard to then get the
yeah,
help you need. So, yeah, if you're being offered support, take it, I think is my advice. And there are so many wonderful foster carers out there, so many. One of the parents at my school is an adoptive parent and a foster parent, and she's just wonderful. She's the granny that you would want all your children to
yeah,
have, and she does such a great job with babies actually. And yeah, there's so many out there, and no foster parent does it for the money. I can assure you, they're all there because they really, really do want to make a difference.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
Jordan, I just want to say thank you ever so much for coming on. I can't thank you enough because I think you've been really open and honest, and I could see, emotionally for you still where this takes you. And I think it's really brave of you to come on and talk about that. And I think, and I know actually that other parents out there that will resonate with them, and it feels real. And so thank you for coming on and being so open and honest. I really appreciate you coming on. I'm going to put all of Jordan's contact details,
yeah,
your website and stuff like that, because you do like kind of trainings and stuff like that, and
yeah,
we'll put
yeah.
all those on there. And obviously all your social media links. But thank you ever so much for coming on. I really
Thank
appreciate your time,
you.
Jordan.
Thank you. And it's really wonderful to be able to have a platform to share this with. It feels safer sharing it on someone else's. So maybe I'll get a bit braver and share it on my own. But no, so thank you for that opportunity as
Oh,
well.
you're really welcome. Thanks, Jordan.